and I'm in the Northwest. Well, I'm closer to the coast. I'm in a small town where it's usually raining and gloomy all the time. There's not much to do around here. In fact, it's perpetually dead. It's a town that got left behind by the rest of the world. Time marched on forward, and yet seemingly we stood still. I guess I'm lucky, if you could call it that. Why? Well, I have a job and I own my own car. It's not really something that you would write home about, but it does the trick, see? One of them used imported cars. I had around 40,000 miles on it, and I was able to pay it off over several years. It's not something that you would be proud to take to a club on a Friday or Saturday night evening. No, it's the type that you go from point A to point B and inexpensively. I was able to move into sort of a pigeon coop by the cemetery. Why do you call it a pigeon coop? Well, it's got like 600 square footage, and you know it's a place to live at a really good price. It's ideal because I can work at the cemetery, so I can walk over there within 5 to 10 minutes and get right to work. What do I do and how long have I been doing it? Well, let's just say I have a high honor of grave digging, and I've done it for a while. Yep, I've seen some fancy caskets and not so fancy ones. I mean, it's not like the dead person generally cares. Guess what? They're dead. Maybe you do it for the living instead. Everyone sees the casket and thinks, okay, cool, and moves on with their lives. Usually thinking that the dude doesn't need a fancy casket, but someone who's got two thumbs and is a grave digger could really use the money. I don't think about that much. I mean, why would it not be the best topic? Who wants to talk about mortality and even ceasing to exist? Yep, it's partly what drives every single person on the planet, but at the same time, it's a mystery. I sometimes catch myself thinking, who was I before I became Jacob? If we look at the science, it tells us that energy is neither created nor destroyed, and it transfers, and we boil down to energy, right? So we transfer into someone or something else. Do we wait? Do we come back as another human being? What do we do with dead bodies? And if we are in the casket, do worms decompose the bodies? Or what if they do? How do they get to the casket? Yeah, I've got a lot of time on my hands digging graves. These are the thoughts that circle my head. Sometimes I go exploring around the area where I work at the vast land at the edge of town that's surrounded by the forest. But there's one place that I will not go. The cemetery is right by some big oak trees, and there is a house on the right side of the fence line. It's a big two-story painted white. It looks nice and all in the front of the house, but when you go to the back of the area of the cemetery, it's nothing but overgrown plants and shrubbery. One could hardly walk through there. You'd have to get a machete to cut it down. But there was something down in that old cellar, and it was bolted cross-barred so no one could open it. But it had been sitting there for so long that the weather had gotten to the bars, and the padlock almost could pull them off with some force. One day, I go through and I would give it a go. I'm telling you, there was sometimes I was not like people were, falling dead like flies around the small town. I got some liquid courage by sipping some bourbon from a flask and giving an old rusty handle a pull or two. I felt weird doing it. I don't know, for some reason. A few chills ran down my spine, but I took another swig from the flask and kept going. I started to bend a little and then pulled a little harder, and the bars broke in two, and now I was just with the padlock. So happened to bring my tool lock kit, so just in case if it would not budge, so I was prepared for the mission. So it took me a second or two, but I got the lock to pop open, and so I threw off the lock to the side and pulled open the steel doors, and a big burst of air rushed out at me and almost threw me to the ground, but luckily I caught my balance and got back up on my feet. I got my flashlight out, and I got into a coughing fit for a minute. I looked down at what's in the cellar. The first thing, there's a wine cellar off to the side. I pull a bottle out. It says, Victor Van Gogh, old chap, 1815. Must have been a good year, eh? As I say this loud, I hear something bang. It took out this old generator that had fired up. I guess somehow it was connected to the cemetery. Let me go back up and see if I see smoke signals coming from the stack. But yes, I did see smoke signals, so that takes care of that. Now for the rest of the room. There's not too much else here except for the stairs that go up to the door. Let's see where this takes me. As I start walking up the stairs, I hear whispers. Yes, it seems like whispers all around me. As I keep advancing, I hear someone say clearly in a low voice, "Hello there." I jump as I hear the voice, and I see a creepy old hand with long fingernails and long gray hair down past his shoulders with green eyes. As I'm looking at it, and as into emeralds, he says, "Do not be frightened, as I am just a wheezy old man with quite the ability to survive. You see, you have busted down here, and I have not seen a soul in quite a while. I would say about 1,000 years or so." I say, "Okay, so you're some type of wishing giver or something like that?" "Not quite, but you can call me Sully." "Okay, Sully." As I wait, "You've been down here for over 1,000 years. What is your power?" "Well, my power? Who says I have a power? You're going to have to help me, you see. It's a ritual that I need to be performed. I need a few things from the forest, you see, some herbs and berries and fresh water from the stream. Well, you know, I have no idea about this place. It has not been upgraded in some time, you'd see. I know this is not your place. It looks run down. It looks like it could use some equipment, I guess, you know. The owners just have gotten this place, I guess, in the forest, you know, just forgotten about this place. Maybe you could ask them to upgrade it." As Jacob heads up towards the stairs and opens the door. Goes in the first room and sees an embalming room. Well, I guess the old thing down there was right. An old viewing room is not too bad. It needs a little updating that can be done with the right deep pockets to get Mr. M to do it. He's going to have to do some convincing. That'll be no problem. Get him some Jack and a little bit of herb, and he'll be golden to talk to. All right, I'll see him and see when he gets on his back from his trip from Montana, from the Casket Con, as they like to call it. His assistant is 6 foot tall, blonde hair, with the bluest eyes, like looking into a pool of water. Some might say, or even the sky. Well, she's not to talk about it. She's really the one been pulling the strings, not Mr. M, you see. He thinks he is the big shot, but he's not. It's me, his big assistant. You know, I'm the one pulling the shots. And the boy Jacob, he does have a good idea about opening up that old house in the back. We had not used it in ages, but it, you know, might take a little. Trust me, Mr. Jacob, we will get it done up and running within the next 3 weeks. We will do it. No expense cost. It's not too much we need. Let's get this up and running. Once we know it's just old and decrepit looking, this old building is. It's not suitable for more than 100 people. This new house, we can have up to 300 people. It's quite bigger than Mr. M's old place. He will be surprised when he comes back to an empty room. We can just leave it at that and not tell him. He will be a big surprise. He might even be happy. Well, let's hope he is, Mr. Jacob. Mr. Jacob gets a weird feeling, and he decides to go back down to the basement, and he starts saying, Mr. Sully, are you there?" And he hears a loud bang and a lock, and he realizes he's trapped down there in the basement while Mr. Sully walks free around the town.